G'day guys, Mac with the House Circle. While I've been in the United States, I've spoken to a few people who've obviously watched our videos before on this channel, answered a few of their questions, and I thought, geez, some of these questions are really good about what the channel exists for, that sort of thing. I should really talk about it. And I think I need to do it at this point in time because in order to move forward with this channel and make more content, people need to understand where I'm coming from. What isn't helpful is if I just sit here, say, criticizing Games Workshop or something, and I don't state what the whole point is. Now, those who've been here for a while, they probably get it, but there are plenty of other people who've never been on the Outer Circle at all before. Maybe they're going to stumble across this video, and they'll kind of start to understand what the channel's about. So, for a really quick recap, I've gone back on our YouTube channel and I've gone to the oldest videos we've got, just to sort of see if I can pick out the point where the salt begins, just as a bit of a laugh. So, obviously, the very first video I put up was the Tormentor, personal transport of the Primarch Perturabo. This was my first foray onto YouTube, and it was one of those, look, I'd like to make YouTube videos, but what the hell am I going to make content about, sort of things. I went, well, I build, convert, paint models. Maybe I can just show my stuff off. And originally I made the video for the Galaxy in Flames blog, which I was a member of at the time. Great little blog. And I enjoyed the video, and it took a long time to actually put together. Yeah, it's only 5 minutes long, but, well, when you're new to video editing, that sort of thing, you don't have any audio equipment, you've only got one camera which you don't really know how to use correctly because it's literally my first DSLR that I was using at the time. These things don't exactly go together smoothly, but I got a video together and I was really happy with it. It's obviously been viewed a lot since then, but initially we're talking like 35, 40 views in a couple of months. Stuff all. My next couple of videos was the Storm Sword tutorial, as you can see, which there is a fourth part, I just never uploaded it, so I really need to put that up. It has the new style intro and everything, but I just, for whatever reason, never put it up. But I went through how I painted up this rescue model. The guy who I bought it off is an absolutely fantastic modeler, by the way. It's just one of those funny things. The model was in a rather poor condition when I got it, but I went through the full building and painting it type thing, or painting it mostly I should say, and I thought it was a really good tutorial video. Problem is, even now, only a couple of hundred views. Not exactly great. So I asked myself, why is this? Am I doing the wrong thing? Am I doing a bad job? Poor job? That sort of thing? I don't think I was. I think the content was there. I think it was easy enough to follow. It could have definitely been better. But it's a saturated market. So really, I don't know that people were getting anything out of my tutorial. So then, okay, move along. I get to the gravel tutorial for like the gravel on my metal Adeptus Titanicus models. Well, they were actually Epic 30k at the time, because Titanicus really wasn't a thing for nearly 4 years ago now. Again, it's got a little bit of traction since, but at the time, hardly any views. And now I decided, no, what I need to do is talk about the things I enjoy. What do I enjoy? Well, I enjoy Chaos Space Marines. Well, I want to talk about them. But I had a problem. They had a terrible codex. And they'd had a string of terrible codexes. And whenever I tried to talk about them on forums, on blogs, that sort of thing, people would turn around to me and say, oh, there's no need to be negative, it is what it is, suck it up, who cares, basically any excuse that people could come up with in order to sort of just drown you out. And I thought, this is a bit shit. And the longer I thought about it, the more I kept seeing it, where people who had genuine concerns or gripes with Games Workshop, things they disagreed with, they would just get shut down, pushed out of the picture. They weren't allowed to express their opinion. Now, some people may turn around and go, oh, that's bullshit. There's plenty of places you can express your opinion. Where? That's my actual question here. Where? Where can you go? You can't go to Games Workshop's Facebook pages. Back then they didn't have any, and now they do, but you go on there, say a negative thing about them, your comment just gets deleted. they're all about censorship. The only time they don't delete your comment is if you say you're going to delete this comment like the last one, and then they kind of leave it as if because you're calling them on their shit. But at the time, again, this is nearly 4 years back. It says 3 years on the screen, but it's nearly 4 years. 4 years like October or something. At the time, you just couldn't say a negative thing about Games Workshop, despite all the bad things they'd done, despite all the people that you personally might have known had left due to the bad things they'd done. Nobody seemed to want to hear it. And I thought, fuck, someone's got to take a stand and just make a video and just say it. Again, I didn't know that the YouTube channel was going to last as long as it has or get as big as it has. Even now, I'm surprised that we've gone to 9.2 thousand subscribers. That's great, considering it was really just a way of me expressing my hobby that turned into me expressing my frustrations with what I love, which is this hobby. And so I produced this video, The Problem with Chaos Space Marines, and it was just sort of a terribly put together thing that just said, I hate this, fuck that, fuck this, fuck that. Just a long list of things that have been gotten wrong. And then I got it out of my system. I was pretty happy. Then I thought, okay, what else have I got? Oh, well, I've got some X-Wing. I'll make a video on that. 61 views. I was just talking about all the models I have in X-Wing and stuff and what I like about it. 61 views. That tells me nobody gives a shit. I mean, for 4 years, 61 views. No one gives a shit. Then I went back to the game, talking about Chaos. Why is Games Workshop afraid of Slaanesh? Which I think was very relevant then, is still relevant now, really. It was sort of like between that and the Problem with Chaos Space Marines. These are like the prototypes of what became the What Broke the Fan series. But again, at the time, it wasn't me taking a big objective look at something. It was me just expressing things that I noticed or that annoyed me personally. That was a lot more successful. So then I went on to review the Laser Touch foam and transport case for X-Wing. Now, Laser Touch, I don't believe, is in operation anymore. I think they're owned by Knights of Dice, and they do still produce cases. But the company's transitioned owners, so that video probably needs to come down because it's not super relevant. And then I did one on just the positives and negatives of Games Workshop. And as you can see, every time I did a video where I spoke the truth, or at least the truth is how myself, one fan, sees it. Because I'm not always right. Just put that out there. I'm not always right. Every time I spoke the truth about what was happening in the hobby, from my point of view, it seemed to generate a lot of traction. So then I went, well, hang on a minute. Why don't I use this opportunity to sort of speak for everyone and just put all the bad things I see in the hobby out there? So that's what I did. The Mastodon problem, same thing. I went, here's a set of models that exist in this world, and then here's this one thing that looks a bit weird and doesn't seem to match the existing stuff. Now, whether or not you like a model, that sort of thing, completely subjective. But I was able to objectively say, this is the shape of this, this is the shape of this. Clearly all these marine tanks and stuff are the same, this thing's completely different. How does it, you can't just look at it and instantly pick what faction it belongs to. And that's a problem that haunts us even to this day, because they get so carried away with sculpting and designing new things, they don't necessarily fit in with the established aesthetic. The Mastodon, though, is really symptomatic of the problem. Now, this went on. I started the Is It Shit series at this time, which is a system, or series, I should say, not a system, that I've sort of moved away from, because I think I have better ways of explaining units now in the Getting Started videos, which I think are a better resource, which is why I don't tend to do Is It Shit episodes anymore. The weekly Scrub Down also started this time, and again, not really trying to be a negative thing, but it was myself and Kat who was able to do a lot of videos at this time. We were able to sit down together and just look at the releases each week and say good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, discuss things that were going on in the hobby and things that were pissing us off personally. And again, it wasn't designed to be negative, but over time we both grew away from the games being put out of Games Workshop and just the constant throwing of new products at us without fulfilling our urge to see, say, the Horus Heresy completed, finalised, finished. Instead, it's always just it's like a project your dad has in the shed. He's been meaning to finish it for years, his homemade baseball bat or something weird. Games Workshop just bought out the Horus Heresy, but then they didn't do anything with it. They have done something with it. That's the wrong phrasing. Let me think of a better way to put this. They bought out the game, but they don't give it the support it needs. They do the bare minimum required, constantly. And you see this all throughout. And so that's why the passion started to go for us for the game system. Which is part of why we don't do the weekly scrub downs anymore. Because it's very hard to open up Games Workshop's page, look at something like Cave and Shrike, and give it anything but fucking pure negativity. Because we're not interested in 8th edition. We're not interested in the universe that 40k has become. Because we're not fucking 12-year-old children. We are not the Fortnite crowd. It doesn't appeal to us. Now, again, that's not meant to be a super insult against people who do love 8th edition. Fill your boots. But to us, that's kind of what it resembles. It's like a kid's version of what the Warhammer 40,000 universe should be, with all the grim, dark, cool adult stuff that drew us in as kids, because it was like, oh, it's edgy and dark. That's intriguing. It's with that all removed, it doesn't do anything for us. Then, of course, you got what we did our first few interviews, I did the first nostalgia trip, then I started the What Broke the Fan series, and I believe the Chaos Space Marine one here was the very first one of those. And it was like, that's where I think we started to get our stride. Because then we just started talking about the things that were wrong. And we didn't just say what was wrong, but we also said solutions, or how something got to the state it did. And I think that's what our channel did really well. And to this day, that's what we try and do. So, obviously I've spent the first sort of 12 minutes or so of this video babbling on about that sort of thing. Well, let's talk about what we do now. So, nowadays what we try and do is we try and look at the models that are coming out of Games Workshop. And we want to do two things. We want to, one, encourage people to play the fun games, the games that we think are fun. So, that's why the Getting Started in Horus Heresy series exists. I try to create something that was easy for people to understand. They can just watch the video and go, okay, if I just buy these few things, I'm going to have an army that, while it's not the best, will definitely be something that's in contention. I can learn with it. I will understand the basic fundamentals of the Force, which is something you don't, in my opinion, get elsewhere. Like podcasts, that sort of thing are great, but I find it's easier to display the image on screen because then people can associate visually, that is the exact kit I need, that is the exact model I need, box, etc., and associate it with its rules. The other thing we want to do is give people consumer awareness, consumer feedback. And yeah, we're fucking hard on Games Workshop. We really are. But they deserve it, in our opinion. Now, there's two ways to look at this. First, you can look at it as an apologist. This is saying, look, it's a corporation, they're a company, they need to earn money, da-da-da-da-da. That's true, that's fair. But you've got to remember, they're putting out a service they've got to get you, the consumer, to like. If they're giving you a service which is subpar, you don't just have to accept it. And that's really the big point we try and push on the channel. If Games Workshop's treating you like shit, treat them like shit back. Don't just roll over and accept it. Because the thing that I really need to get across here, I need to stress this. Our community is a very isolated community. There is no other hobby I've ever known, shy of something like, collectible card game like Magic the Gathering, maybe even video games to a degree, which draws in so many people who have more, what's the best way to describe this? Who have personalities that perhaps aren't outgoing. People who are a bit more insular. People who perhaps don't have full self-confidence, struggle in wider environments, don't feel comfortable. a whole host of different things. We draw a lot of those people into this because things like sports draws out people who are charismatic, people who are good looking, that sort of thing, really confident in themselves. Yeah, sports all the way, right? They're the sort of people you see playing football. They want to go out in front of a stadium of thousands of people, wave at them, and go and do their thing. Warhammer, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite. Warhammer is something that attracts people who spend a lot of time at home, perhaps. Maybe maybe they just got social anxiety, something. But in any case, this is a hobby that people who have some, perhaps, personality deficits, again, not trying to be rude here, but in a way, it draws in people who shouldn't perhaps be in this position because they're easier to exploit, because they're just looking for friends. They're just looking for people they can hang out with, associate with, where they can just be themselves and not feel like a weirdo. That's the truth. That is a lot of the people that this hobby draws in. And that's why this community is so supportive. There are that many models that shouldn't get anything other than flaming hatred posted up online every day. But they don't. Why? Because people are being nice to each other, being supportive, encouraging. Nothing wrong with it. But if it was any other community hobby, that sort of thing, people would get fucking annihilated for it. But the thing is, that's exploited by the company, Games Workshop in particular, which is why we're hard on them, because they know what they're doing. A lot of people are unwilling to criticize Games Workshop because they see it as criticism of themselves. They're a supporter of the hobby, the franchise, whatever it will be. They have made friends through the hobby, perhaps, and they don't want to come to that horrible realization that maybe, just maybe, it's not the healthiest thing for them. Now, again, no perfect crystal answer here. I'm a fallible person like anyone else is. But this is the sort of person that the hobby draws in. A lot of people that play this game are not your 6 foot tall, gridiron playing, American football, that sort of thing, playing person. A lot of people are just your standard sort of, I guess, nerd. I mean, I am. I love my Star Trek. I love my Star Wars. Well, used to. Ryan Johnson ruined that. My science fiction, that sort of thing. I'm a nerd. We're the people that this hobby draws in. But we can be the people who need friends the most. Need to associate with people. And to think that that whole desire of just being accepted is being exploited, that annoys me personally as a content creator. Which is part of why I tell people, do not roll over for this company. It's why I hold them to such a high standard. Now, it's important to talk about that standard for a moment, because personally, I hold myself to the same high standard. I make mistakes. I do things wrong. Recently, I was approached by a company, and people who follow us on Facebook would know this, that has a license to create content for Games Workshop in the video game department. They created a video game which has microtransactions and said they'd like the channel to join up to their community content creator program, make content for this game, and essentially like open loot boxes, that sort of thing. Now, the whole point of this was that people would come, watch my video, go, oh fuck, this looks like fun, Macca says it's good, he's trustworthy. They then click the link and buy something, and I get a very impressive cut of what they buy. Now, that's morally wrong. I cannot sit here creating content, putting out videos that criticize Games Workshop for exploiting people, and then go and do it myself. Which is why you won't see that sort of content here. If someone said to me, Macca, we're giving you a model, we're giving you a video game, can you review it, can you talk about it? So, fine, no worries. I'll be honest, like I have in the past, where, say, Conversion World gave me parts, and I said, this is Conversion World Chainsword, here's a Forge World one, let's compare them next to each other live on camera. That sort of thing. I try and be very honest like that. Again, I might not be perfect. I do apologise for whatever mistakes I make. But for me to get given a video game and then to put out content that tries to mislead people into how good it is, Because, even if it is good, the perception will always be there. Because I'm getting something given to me, then clearly I am biased. I'm doing something maybe not for the benefit of the people coming to watch these videos, but for my own benefit. That's a bad thing. That's a terrible precedent. But not only that, I don't agree with the loot box style mechanics in general. In fact, I fucking despise them, because the whole point of them is to psychologically manipulate people for money. Hate it. Horrible. Won't do it. So that's a bit of an insight into the thought process here. We're not hypocrites. We don't want to criticize Games Workshop for exploiting people and then go and do it ourselves. That's just fucking despicable. Now, a lot of what we hold Games Workshop accountable for are, say, the quality of their sculpts, the quality of their lore writing, and that sort of thing. People often come to us and say, if you hate the hobby so much, why don't you just leave it, stop doing it, that sort of thing. Well, to these people, I always have the sort of same thing to say, which is, I think the Games Workshop IP is fantastic. The whole Warhammer 40,000 universe especially is so unique. It stands out from the other universes because it's so fucking dark by nature. There are very few sci-fi universes that match it in scope and how dark they are. It's something that's been built up over nearly 40 years. Well, 32 years, I think. Rogue Trader was 87. But anyway, very unique, beautiful universe. And they're squandering it. And the same with the models. It's like, yes, they're putting out more content than ever, but it's more expensive than ever. The amount of times I can be sitting in a Games Workshop, and I do like to go into them, believe it or not, the amount of times I'll be in there, just having a look around, just seeing what's on the shelves, what's in and out of production, what stores want to stock these days. These are the sort of things I find interesting. I'm a terrible window shopper, I'll admit it. I notice a lot of people come in and they get promo games. Hey, come play some Age of Sigmar. Come play some 8th edition 40k. And you know what happens nearly every time I'm in the Games Workshop store? The people turn around and go, I don't mind this. And they leave. And sometimes I might just ask them a question before they go. I'm like, oh, don't want to get into the game? They go, no, it's too expensive. Maybe that's just hearsay, but for those in, say, Europe, probably isn't. Europe's basically subsidised hobby as far as I'm concerned, because you're getting it at basically cost. Not all of Europe, of course, little caveat, but places like America, 20% more at least than Europe. Australia, 40% to 60% more, pretty terrible. You talk to people who are retailers in the United States, and they would get items at something like 60% cost, something like that off the top of my head, but significantly reduced, basically half price. And then they'd sell it for an additional 20% on top of that, and they make profit off that additional 20%. That's like Games Workshop is making a cut still. So that means Games Workshop can basically halve the cost of kits, and they're still getting a profit out of it. It's crazy to think how expensive it is. So we talk about it. We talk about how expensive it is. I mean, I just did it right then. It just sort of flows into the conversation sometimes. That's what we do on this channel. We just say it how it is. Now, we've tried to back that up also with hard facts. So I've done whole episodes on the channel where I talk about the price, and I go through each part in the plastic casting process, how much it costs for molds, how much it costs to run machines, how much it costs for freight, how much it costs for material. Put it all in there, put the information out to consumers. I get told I hate the game. Where am I going with this? Because when people say to us, if you hate the game so much, why do you still do it? It's because I like it. I enjoy the game. I hate the company. I don't even hate the company. I hate the upper executives in the company who are motivated entirely by greed. As I say, wonderful universe if it's treated correctly. We don't just shit on them. That's the misconception. We don't hate them. We're trying to encourage them to do better things. But encouraging them politely hasn't worked in the past. Being nice to them and saying, can you do this, can you do that, does not work. So we swear, we rant, we rave. We call them cum-guzzling retards. Tell them they're full of shit. Tell them they're liars. Because we can prove it time and time again when they lie, when they jack prices, when they're rude, when they delete comments, that sort of thing. It's all fuel for the fire. We're rude to them because of how they treat us. If they didn't treat us the way they do, we wouldn't be like this. We talk about Games Workshop because we can see the potential. We want the game to be better. If everyone just left as soon as they got upset with something Games Workshop did, this hobby would be fucked. They would mercilessly, relentlessly monetize and change it constantly. And we're at the stage now where it's kind of like that. The biggest thing I can do on this channel is inform people. Say to them, I am telling you this in the hopes that you can get better educated. So that's the two goals. Inform the customer about what shit's really like, what's going on. That's goal number 1. Goal number 2 is to encourage people to get into the hobby if they like what they see, which is what things like the Getting Started videos are for. Most of this channel follows basically those two formulas at this current point in time. We're either talking about what we like, or we're criticising things we don't like. I guess that's clear-cut content that any channel on YouTube can follow. But the idea is, we don't just want to criticise and say it's bad. We want to say it's bad because of this, and here's how you fix it. That's the big goal. If I'm not doing that in my videos, if I'm just calling something bad, then I'm not doing my job correctly as a content creator. If I'm just sitting there and putting out videos talking about, say, Getting Started in Horus Heresy, well, I'm not doing my part either, because although I might be encouraging people to get into the game, they don't know what the company is like that they're getting involved with. You see how the two things work together? I hope people understand what I'm going for in this video. But the point is that if I say, this is how you get started with the Dark Angels army, here's their rules, how cool is that? And people then go out and buy it on my word, and then they find out what Games Workshop's like, well, I'm going to look like a huge piece of shit. Because I just screwed them over. They came on, listened to me, put their trust in me, and then they find out that Games Workshop is going to fuck them in the ass. Not good. Now, why mostly Games Workshop? Well, for a start, it's the hobby that I think is biggest in the world, out of tabletop gaming. Again, because it's just got that huge, rich background, that sort of thing. They're what we focus on. Other systems we'd like to talk about, yes. I've been trying to work in like a Song of Ice and Fire, Chronicles of Hate, in little snippets, but again, the viewer count really isn't there. People just aren't too interested in it. People seem to be more interested in the fact they either want to know what Games Workshop's doing bad or what they're doing good. That seems to be like the main subject. Whenever I talk about the other companies, usually the comments is full of people going, yeah, this thing's great. And that's it. That's the engagement. It's like, great, I'm glad you're happy with it. By all means, I do want to put out more content for it, and I will, because the views aren't what drive me. We don't really get that much ad revenue on this page. Like $1 a video per month is roughly what we get, which is not terrible either, by all means, but that's the money that's got to combine with our Patreon, buy like camera equipment, recording equipment, hard drives to store information on, because videos use up a lot of digital memory. On top of that, of course, I'm also working full-time. Cat, terrible motorcycle accident, huge change in life circumstances. That's why he doesn't create content anymore, but he will once he's sort of back on his feet, as it were. That's the state of things. So we talk about Games Workshop mostly because that's what people want to hear about, and it is such a huge topic. But at this point, I feel I've really covered all the shady corporate shit that goes on. It's only when they do something truly bizarre now that it really gets a video. Ever since they did the price hike, when they did the Forge World price hike, where they put everyone's Forge World purchases into their own national currency, and they did a massive hike of like 60% on some products, just to sell it in your currency. No circumstances had changed overnight, just they arbitrarily clicked the button on the computer to change the server, and just fucked everyone. That was when I got the last of the true hatred out, the hatred for the executives. Now it's when they do something like, I don't know, release the the Golden Kashyyyk, and it's like $400 for 6 resin bikes. And then it's like, well, fuck, you can buy multiple getting started sets in 40k, like multiple battle forces, that sort of thing, for that kind of money. And you're getting 6 models, 5 of which are just the same identical sculpt, none of which actually really symbolize what that model is meant to according to the law, that kind of thing. Then I'll pick on it. Then I'll shit on it. But otherwise, I sort of just leave it alone now, and I just meme it a bit on Facebook. Anyway, I hope this has been an informative video. I know it's really boring for a lot of people. Probably people switched off in the first 2 minutes when they realised I wasn't really going to be going anywhere with this video, but it's something I felt needed to be said. What the whole point of this channel is, and that is, again, summarise one last time, to give people the footing they need to play these games, to understand something like Heresy, what is cool about it, what's enjoyable about it, and how to get into it. And the other thing is to inform people what the company itself is like. And hopefully, just hopefully, a small little fucking kernel inside the Games Workshop company comes and watches these videos themselves, and then maybe takes something away, and there's something, just something gets improved by it. Anyway, Mac with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for taking the time to watch this, again, rather boring episode. I'll be talking about Wargamer Camp soon. I'll be on the Eye of Horus episodes next week, Eye of Horus podcast, talking about Wargamer Camp. And hopefully people will get something out of this. I want to talk about Shadespire and the whole deal that's gone on with a heap of the Shadespire cards being removed from the Warhammer Underworlds game, and new cards coming in, and the way the community interacted over that I found fascinating, completely and utterly fascinating, which is why I think it's really worthy of its own video, regardless of where I do or do not stand on it. That's my next big goal, and talk to you soon. See you later, guys.